What's up? It's Lugamonger. This is the Emerson cqc-7f Flipper 7 SF. I don't actually even know what the SF stands for. This knife is sick as shit for fondling. It's a whole lot of fun to play with, but I'm going to say some shit in this review that's probably going to upset some people, right? I like this knife. I like the blade profile for what it's intended for. This is a slicer. This thing, the cutting edge catches material. This bites into material better than a lot of other knives I have. It really does snag loose material. You can catch branches. You can cut, you hack shit. It works really well for pull cutting. The grind is done in the wrong way, right? And that's just, I don't know. That's all a personal preference thing with the chisel grind. You know what I mean? But for scraping bark off of a stick, you put the flat down of the blade down and you get a perfect cut, right? So this blade shape is great. It doesn't cut through material too well. It does tend to veer off to one side, so it's not the best for a whole lot of EDC tasks, but it's great, right? It's just the whole blade setup. The system itself, this is like the most un-Emerson-like Emerson ever, right? And Emerson fans will know what I'm saying. You can see it's number 317 and S35VN, which is kind of strange for an Emerson. It's also on bearings, right? And I'll say this off the bat. This is the only flipper I've ever actually experienced that is easy to, it is as easy to flip this with my thumb as it is to flip it with my index finger. See that? It's great. I can open this knife a whole shitload of ways. It's got multiple ways of opening. You can wave it. You can use the thumb disc. You can flip it out with multiple fingers. The detent is decent. You know what I mean? Decent Emerson detent, but it's interesting because this actually isn't a reverse detent. If you're familiar with Emerson's, most of their knives, the detent is actually on the opposite side, right? If you can see that up in there. And on this one here, it's traditional. The detent is actually created by the liner lock itself. And you can see that little bit of relief there when it closes in. Watch it slide over. See that? You can see it click into place there. So it's a decent amount of engagement. It's a good click. It's not a whole lot of resistance, but it's a good click. It holds in really well, and it does give you an excellent flipping motion. You can flip this in any direction, light switch it, you can push button it, you know, it just works really well. It's very smooth, and it's actually a whole lot of fun to close this knife, right? Because you've got this flipper tab sticking off so far. So if you can hit the liner lock, right, disengage the liner lock and close it. Let's see if I can actually do this here. That. See that? Detent actually, it slammed closed and then popped open on the detent right there, right? But alright, I'm not going to be able to do it on camera. Yeah, I'll try that again in a minute. Okay, the negatives with this thing. Have you ever felt like you've been robbed by a knife? And I don't mean financially. This thing feels like it's stealing a 3/4 inches of grip from me. There's jimping up there. It's a little bit rounded. I know that this is the only cqc-7 I have, so I just don't have the full ergonomics of this. I don't have the full experience on being able to choke up on this blade for harder use, being able to get all the way up there. And with that said, it does have a guard. It actually has stopping protection. So, I mean, it's a negative and a positive in that manner, because in the normal cqc-7, a major drawback to that, a major criticism that it gets is that it doesn't have enough stopping protection. It relies so much on the actual texture of the knife, which is fine depending on your preference. You know what I mean? How you do what you do. You know what I mean? You can get away with it. But what it actually leads to is, watch this shit, right? This is the kicker. If I give this a really good squeeze, it disengages the blade. The fat in my finger, when I squeeze it, disengages the frickin' liner lock. You see that? Like, that's just a little bit. Right? And if I give it when I give it like a really good squeeze, it's coming on that. It's ridiculous. It's not safe. It's safe in the aspect that flipper's gonna catch. You know what I mean? If this ever actually does happen, I give it a really good squeeze. My thumb's never gonna be right there. I mean, but I give it a really good squeeze, and that flipper disengages, there's still that flipper is going to catch. You know what I mean? It's not going to come all the way down on my finger, but it's pinching the shit out of me right there. And if I was putting like half my body weight on this knife when this happened, this would surely cut the crap out of me up in that little action, and then might flip over, leading to my fingers getting cut off by this thing. So that it's just not, it's not safe. You know what I mean? That design right there with my shape of hands, holding it right underneath that flipper tab, because it forces your finger to lie right there, right? If that flipper wasn't there, it wasn't so big, that wouldn't be the case. It wouldn't be so necessary that the fat of your finger lies in that groove. It only happens in that grip, right? Like this, I mean, I can disengage the lock like this, but it's directly intentional. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be able to disengage the lock in this grip here. But even with that said, right, I give a really good purchase to this thing. I can't fully disengage it, and it's not there normally. I mean, this thing is rock solid. There's no play. Up, down, side to side. It's rock solid. But I give it just that really good squeeze on that grip. This knife is a failure for me. It's a lot of fun. It's actually given me a better impression of S35VN because it is a hard use knife. You know what I mean? If I give this a proper grip, this is how I've been using it. If I hold this thing like this, you know what I mean, keep my fingers away from that liner, actually keep them fully away from that liner lock, it still gives me a lot of digging pressure, and I still can get a lot of torsional stress on this knife and use it really hard. So it's given me a better experience with the S35VN, and it's great. You know what I mean? It doesn't hold an edge quite like S30V would, I think. I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't have an S30V grind with the actual same geometry, and you know, I don't have a general comparison, but I do really like it. It's held an edge quite well. I like the chisel grind, and then this knife, once you get it down, is actually one of the only flippers that this is one of the only flippers I've ever seen that you can open and close almost as fast as you can open and close an axis lock. It's not as fast, but it's damn close. And it's actually almost the same size as a Griptilian. It's just a fraction smaller than a Griptilian. It's heavier. But, so, this knife's a failure for me. It's got some serious issues that just, you know what I mean? This isn't going to be one of my main carry options. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I definitely like it. It's a great fondling knife. It's a whole lot of fun to play with, but for actual tactical purpose or hard use, it's never something I'm going to use. Y'all have a good one.